Now that you're practiced up and ready to move on, let's close this file. If you do want to save it, our practice file, you certainly can. I'm just going to save it with that same 190, even though I'm on 198. But this is just a practice file. So once it's done saving, it should close, and then we can come back and we can open an actual file from our Chapter 7 book files. So in Chapter 7, we want to open the L7 Start document. And we are going to work through this. And I'm going to fit in the window. And I'm just going to switch tools right now so we can just take a look at this. So like I said, this is a little bit easier because not only do we have a template, it also shows us where to draw, how far to stretch out our leading direction lines. And when we need to break them off and head in a new direction, it even shows us that. So there's a lot of steps. If you're just looking at the book, I encourage you to read each step thoroughly so that you understand what you're doing, when you let go of your mouse, when you use a modifier key, etc. And because I'm going to try to follow the book directions exactly, assuming that you're looking at them as well, if I'm fumbling a little bit, it's because I'm truly trying to describe it in the same way the book does to you, rather than just free form it. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to look at our layers panel. And in our layers panel, they have several things done for us, but one is a layer called artwork. And that's the layer that we're actually going to draw all these lines on, or do our complete shape. So make sure that we target the artwork layer before we begin drawing this. And then we're going to switch to our pen tool, and we're going to go back to properties, and we're going to switch to have no fill. We do not want this filling in with the color white. It's going to be confusing because the sheet is white, so we won't really know we're doing it until it's too late and it starts covering up things because it's trying to connect back to the first point. So best practice is no fill and a 1-point black stroke. All right, take our time and let's do this. Let's start with the pen tool. You can go clockwise or counterclockwise, but I'm going to be a rule follower, and I'm going to start at A and I'm going to move around in the correct order. So the first thing that we need to do is from A to get to B, we need to make a curve that goes up and to the left. So we are going to set this first directional handle. So we're going to start at A, we're going to click and drag, and we're going to pull out to the red and let go. That gives us our first curve going to the left and up. Don't worry that over here you see this finishing point. This doesn't happen until we come back and connect, where we take this and tweak it out a little bit. So for now, we're on the right path. So we're going to go to point B, we're going to press and drag up, and we're going to stop on the gold dot. So we're going to go up to there, and when we let go, we have that perfect curve below, but going forward, we have a curve, and it's an up curve. If you look at how we're meant to get from B to C, it's actually a down curve. It's a slight down curve. So we're going to have to split these directional handles. So the one that goes up here, we're going to have to split this bottom one off and get it going in a different direction. So hover over B again, and when our pointer changes to this upside down caret thing, we need to hold Option, and then we need to click and drag. So the leading direction line that was up here, telling it to go up, we need to say no. You need to head this way and do a slight down curve. And then we let go of that, and we're ready to go to point C. So now we can come over to point C, and we can click and release to add our anchor point there. Again, because we just clicked, we're now coming out in a straight line. It's a little confused here. So to make our next path a curve, we're going to move over this last anchor point again, And we're going to press and drag out to set a new leading line going this way. So our curve is going to go to the left and up. So drag out your new leading line to point C. Now instead of being a corner point, C is coming out of it in a curved fashion. We're going to come up to D, and we're going to click and drag up to our red anchor point. And we're going to let go. The problem now is that the leading line, directional line, thinks that we're going up and curving to the right. And what you actually see is a straight line over to E. We want to remove this leading directional handle, not reposition it so it's smooth. We want to remove it completely so that it's a corner point. So to do that, all we do is come back to D and click. That takes away that curved leading line and it comes out as a straight or a corner point. We're going to come over to letter E and we're going to click and release, and that's going to make a straight line for us. I'm going to do some muting here. Okay, come back, mouse. I went all the way over to my second screen. Oh, good grief. Let's do an undo. Come back into Illustrator. There we go. So I made a straight line from D to E. As you draw with the pen tool, every now and then you might want to go back and edit part of the path that you previously drew. So we're actually going to hold a modifier key and we're going to come back and we're going to edit this path from D to E that was a straight line. So holding down Option or Alt on the PC, bring your cursor over this straight line that we just drew. And when our cursor changes to this kind of rounded thing, we're going to click on it and drag up. This is going to say, oh, you meant to have a curved line. Fine, I'll give you a curved line. Let go of your mouse and then the Option or Alt key. That says, okay, this really didn't need to be a straight line. It needed to be a directional handle with just a little bit of a curve, and this one also needed to have a little bit of curve coming into it. So that's kind of a cool thing. You can draw a straight line, come back over it, hold Option, and when you get this, you can reposition it as a curved line. So we're making the back of the swan a little bit more realistic. Okay. So we are still here. We're still in the rubber banding mode coming out of point E, but it thinks that we want to do a straight line and we don't. So we need to add our leading directional handle. So we're going to start at point E and we're going to click and drag, and that's going to set our leading directional handle here. So now we're rubber band again and we're ready to go make some sort of a curve. All right, from here, we need to get up to letter F. We're going to go up to letter F, and we're going to click and drag our directional handle, and notice how that made the line behave behind it. We set the anchor point that finished that bend that we started in letter E. So when you're doing this in the real world, there are not going to be letters, and there's not going to be places to pull out your directional handles. You're going to have to visually look and go, okay, that's the curve I want right there, and stop. All right, we now need to go to point G, and we can see that that's at least going to be an up curve. So if we go to point G and pull down to the red dot, we should get it to match our tracing pretty well. Okay, we came out of point G with a curve. Obviously we don't want that, so we have to come back, and to change it to a corner point, we simply click, and that gives us a straight line, and we can come to H and click. From H, we don't want a straight line, we want it to bend. So from H, we're going to have to go back to the anchor, click, hold down your mouse, and drag up to set your first leading point. So now we have it rubber banded going up and to the left. And now, we did that. We're going to continue drawing at I by dragging the anchor point on I to the gold dot. So that's great. However, if we let go of that, we don't want to curve this way. We want to go back down this way. So we need to change a few things here. We're going to hold the Option button and we're going to drag the end of the directional handle down from the red dot to the gold dot. So we're going to come up here. We're going to hold Option. Oop, I zoomed in on that. And when we're holding Option, we're going to be able to take this one alone. Notice how normally they move in tandem. If the leading handle gets longer, the lower handle gets taller too. Normally we would like spin this up and do something else with it. But what we really want to do is just make it longer. We're going to have the shorter the directional handles, the flatter they are, the curves are, the longer they are, the more rounded these curves are. So we're going to stretch this out right now, and then we're going to be able to come to point J and click and drag down, and we have that nice sweeping curve. If you're having problems seeing because you are moving around on your artboard, remember just hold down the hand tool and push it around. All right. Now we're going to complete this. So we're going to move our pen tool over point A, but we're not going to click yet. We're just going to come over point A. Notice that our cursor changes with a little circle beneath it to signify that if we clicked, we would be joining this path. We don't want to do that quite yet. So we are going to click and drag to the left a little bit. And as we're doing that, notice how that line is growing out and it's getting closer to the gray one that we want here. So we're stretching this last leading line that was super short. It was like right here. We're clicking at point A and we're dragging out to the left and we're elongating that directional line until it matches up, and then we're going to let go. Not only if we clicked, it would have just joined them, but by click, hold down your mouse and dragging out, we're stretching this leading line, this directional handle, to get the right curve that we needed here. I'm going to zoom out, and we now have a closed shape. So I'm going to go over to the Properties panel, and it's still selected, and I'm going to fill it with white. And by doing that, you can tell that it colored in on the inside. If you were to fill it with orange, you might understand it better, but we're just going to fill it with white. And then we're going to click away from this to deselect it. So I'm just going to choose my selection tool and click away to deselect. Well, for crying out loud, I'm still in the pen tool. Don't want to be in the pen tool. So I'm going to delete that thing. I want to just be in my regular selection tool. So that is a good job of making our swan. Couple more things before we're done with this chapter. We're going to learn how to edit some of these paths and points, which makes perfect sense. We're going to convert some of these points from smooth to corner and corner to smooth. And we're going to work with one last tool.